Hello everyone, welcome you all. So in this video, I'm going to explain about non-functional testing. So far we discussed in earlier videos GUI testing, usability testing, functional testing, which are comes under the system testing, right? So now we will discuss about non-functional testing. So what is non-functional? Which is not functional, that comes under non-functional. So if I want to perform a non-functional testing, first the functionality should be stable of this application. So until unless your functionality testing is completed, we cannot start non-functional testing. Okay, because application stability is very important before doing non-functional testing. So for example, let's take performance testing. So if you want to test the performance or speed of the application, if the functionality itself is not working properly, then how we can perform performance testing, right? So first of all, the functionality is the main important. The functionality should be stable, and then we can perform other kinds of testing. So non-functional testing especially performed after completion of functional testing, because and other thing is the main difference between these two testings are functional testing. So we don't require a complex kind of environment. Okay, but non-functional testing is not like that. Non-functional testing, we need a separate environment, a lot of people, a lot of skill set is required to perform non-functional testing. Now let us see, as part of non-functional testing, what are the different type of testings we do. Like the first and most important one is a performance testing. So performance means the speed of application, how well my application is responding when multiple user or bulk users are accessing my application, especially for internet. So a banking application or financial application or e-commerce application, so regularly people are accessing them 24 by 7, every second, every minute, right? So in those cases, how my application is responding the user, how the speed of application will be there. So that we need to validate as part of the performance testing. So performance in the sense speed of the application. Again, in the performance, there are three things we have to verify, like load testing, stress testing, and then volume testing. So load in this testing means there's small difference between these three. Let me just clarify this. Load testing. Load testing in the sense we have an application or software. Okay, so as customer said, like this application is installed in our organization environment, and approximately 100 people or 100 people will work on this application every day and parallelly. So that's our customer requirement. And along with this, they will also say how much speed it should be. Okay, that's a part of again performance requirement. So we need to have certain parameters. We need to design as per our customer requirement, and we need to also manage that particular parameters. So load testing means suppose customer says 100 users are accessing application, so we need to verify our application is stable or not if 100 users are accessing parallelly. What we do is here we will start with the few number of users, or let's say 10 users accessing the application and they are working on something, and gradually we will increase the load like 20, 50, 60, and finally till 100 we'll gradually increase the size, and we will verify whether at any point of time the application is become slower or application is broken. So we need to main focus on this. Okay, so this is called load testing. So increasing the load on the system and test the response of this particular application. And to test this performance, there are so many parameters we have, like throughput, response time, turnaround time. So the performance team will use these parameters to perform the testing, performance testing. So this is a load testing. So increasing the load gradually and test the application is stable or not, response is properly coming or not, and slowness and all verify. And stress testing. So sometimes what happens is suddenly the bulk load will be increased, and especially if you go and use a Flipkart or Amazon applications, especially for festival seasons, and if you put the offers anything, so suddenly the load or traffic will be increased a lot, right? So at that time application may be broken at some point of time, your server may be down because our application cannot hold that much of traffic, right? So that's called as a stress basically. So stress is nothing but immediately we can just increase a high load, and then immediately again reduce the load, or increase the high load again reduce the load. Okay, this is a not like a gradual increment. Immediately increase the high level load from directly 10 to 90, and 9 to like 20, and 20 to 70. So this kind of testing we need to increase suddenly and we need to decrease suddenly. So these ups and downs we need to do. So every time application how it is responding, whether it is broken or it is not responding or service completely down. So that we need to verify as part of stress testing. Okay, and then volume testing. So sometimes applications also can handle certain amount of data. So suppose if it get a lot of data exceeds the memory, it cannot store that. So that's called as a volume. How much of data your application is able to handle. That you need to also verify as part of volume testing. So these are all comes under the performance testing. Especially performance means speed of the application. Now security testing means security of the application, how secure your application is. So that we need to verify in case of authentication and access control. We can also say authentication and authorization. This is also called as a access control. So we need to test our application in security point of view. Security testing is again a very huge concept. We need to do a lot of testing as part of security. But as a tester point of view, QA point of view, we more focusing on authentication and authorization. So authentication means whether the valid user, suppose if you go and have an application, there are different modules will be there. And suppose if you say banking, there is account department and admin department, right? And then different departments we have, account department, right? So every department is having different people and they can access application, right? Application is also provide all kinds of functionality, but account department people can access only account module, and other admin department will access only admin module, and so on. So that is called as an authorization. So user is valid or not, that comes under authentication. If the valid user is having proper privileges or not, so that's called as authentication. So sorry, authorization. So these two we need to more test as per the functionality application side. Okay, that's called security testing. Along with this, we need to also do a lot of testings as part of security testing, like client and server communication. So if it is a web application, there are n number of chances to hack this data. If it is a sensitive, it will be gone, right? So we need to also make sure this data is transporting in the through network properly or securely or not. We need to verify. So here encryption techniques, description technique will need to validate. So all these are comes under the security testing. So I'm also going to discuss this in detail in the coming videos. For now I'm just leaving here. So the next one is a recovery testing. Sometimes application will go on into unstable states. For example, uh, when you're working on something, if suddenly a system went wrong, like a system has got shut down or somehow the application is broken, right? Some interruption has happened. Because of that, you should not lose anything, you should not lose any data. It should give some kind of recovery mechanism. So again, when I open my application, when I come to the normal state, so whenever it go to abnormal state, everything is gone, but it should able to come again normal state without losing the data. So that is recovery testing. So for example, when you use Gmail account, when you typing your email, you are off of the work you have done, suddenly your application is closed, and then when you open your Gmail, your email will be part of your draft folder, right? So that's one of the example of recovery. Like whether your application is went to abnormal state, again it is coming to the normal state or not, that you have to verify. That's part of recovery testing. Next, compatibility testing, whether your application is or software is compatible with multiple platforms or multiple browsers, right? And multiple hardware configurations and all, we need to verify as part of compatibility testing. So especially for web application, it should be compatible with the Chrome browser, IE browser, Internet Explorer, and then Firefox browser, and many more browsers are available. So customer can use any kind of browser. So our application should be able to see all elements should be present or displayed in each and every browser. So that's called as a cross browser testing. That is one of the compatibility. And especially for the product based companies, you need to install the software on multiple operating systems like Unix, Linux, Windows, Mac, right? So you need to test your product on multiple operating systems. So that is also one kind of compatibility. OS compatibility, browser compatibility, and hardware compatibility. So customer says some kind of configuration of their system, our application should able to install on that particular configuration. Okay, suppose customer says 5 GB RAM and 12 GB memory, so our application should be able to install on that particular size. It should not exceed the size. That is also we need to make sure. So our application is supporting multiple hardware systems or not, hardware environment or not, we need to verify. That's again part of one compatibility and configuration testing. So hardware compatible testing itself called as a configuration testing. And then installation testing, whether our product or application is able to install in each and every environment or not, according to customer requirement or not. So installation process, uninstallation process, and screens are very easy to understand or not. Sometimes some applications will very complex to install. So it should not be like that. The user should able to install his own by seeing the manual documents. So usability should be there. So that is installation testing and sanitation testing. Sometimes this is also called as a garbage testing. Sanitation testing is also called as a garbage testing. Sometimes your application will provide some extra functionality which is not part of requirement, right? So that time it should not have that kind of functionality. We should ask developer to remove that or disable that. Okay, that's called as sanitation testing. If any unwanted or unrequired data, which is unrequired functionalities, which are not present in requirement documents by the customer, it should not be part of your application. We should remove that. We can either disable that or we can just remove that. That's called as a sanity testing. So especially the sanity testing will happen for the maintenance project, because what company will do is, suppose there is a bank A, the company will approach bank A and they develop complete software from the scratch and provide the complete software to the bank delivered, and then some other bank came and approached the same company. So what these people will do is they don't do again from the scratch. So we'll just modify the same code again for the next customer. So because they will save the lot of money there and effort, time and everything. So these are called as a maintenance projects. So when I do these projects, there is a chance to get unwanted function. Suppose there is some requirement is for bank A, but is not, that requirement is not there for bank B. But unnecessarily bank B is also get that particular requirement implementation and all. We should not have, we should not provide that kind of thing. So that's also considered as a bug. So we need to ask developer to remove or disable that. That's called as a sanitation testing. So these are all the different type of testings we need to conduct as part of non-functional testing. So we need a separate and dedicated environment to test the non-functional testing. And one more important thing is, it's very difficult to test manually, because we need to have a lot of tools available in the market for performance, security and all. So it's a little bit challenging task when you do manual testing, because if you want to do performance testing, we need a lot of people, right? A lot of systems. Resources are very huge. To reduce these resources, we have a load runner, JMeter, and there are n number of tools available in the market. So if I have those tools, we don't need this kind of environment. We can still manage with the minimal environment performance testing we can perform. Okay, so that is all about uh, non-functional testing. So thanks for watching this video. So please subscribe my channel to get more updates on this. Thank you all.